Good morning, Liz. Good morning, Eastern Iowa. How we doing?
Welcome to Brews and Coffee.
Yeah. Um, Another episode. We're going to be touching on something very timely today, and that is everything that is going on in the world, and especially with the economy, no matter where you're at in your career, whether you're just entering the job force, perhaps, or maybe you're getting closer to retirement. So we want to take some time today and just kind of give an overview and talk about what's going on and where we're at. So we're recording this end of September 2022, and this year obviously we've seen kind of a change in the workforce, right? So a year ago, late 2021, nobody could find employees. Everybody was really hurting to even find just very basic jobs, and that's flipped a little bit. We're starting to see less and less jobs are open, but there's still a need, and definitely employers are still looking to hire. But it's quite a bit different than it was a year ago. A year ago, you might have been able to find a job or apply to a job, and there you might have been one of two applicants.
Right.
And now you might be applying to that job, and you might be one of 50 applicants. So people are definitely returning to the workforce, and that doesn't. And something that I read, and one of the reasons why we still might be having a little bit of a shortage is our baby boomer generation, right? So we have a lot more people retiring over the last couple of years than we do entering the workforce. So it's kind of that as well as factoring into this. That's creating a little bit of a shortage in how many jobs. But I know how many, or I guess looking forward, Liz, I know you found something online that was really interesting regarding recent college graduates or people that are getting ready to enter the workforce.
Right. Yeah. So the class of 2023, so next year's grads, typically, in the years past, it was really what's hot and new, what are the fast growing fields. And now it's kind of shifted due to recent layoffs and things like that. It's starting to send some of those warning signals to grads. And it says 74% of this year's of 2023's future grads say they prioritize stability and salary from employers, far outweighing factors such as known employer brand or fast-growing fields. So they're really going to look for that safety and security. And I don't think that's unique in job seekers who are graduating from college. I think that's going to be a theme for many job seekers as we move into 2023. You are going to start to see more notices from large-scale companies for layoffs. And that is because they have something called a warn notice that they have to give to the government, whether it's the state or federal level, to let people know that they are planning to lay off employees. And so as you see those flow through the news, it's a requirement if they're going to do a large scale layoff that they have to send a notice. And what that does is it signals to the economic development and the workforce development mechanisms to help provide supports to people who are going to be transitioning roles, help them with upskilling or job transitioning to other companies. The good news is there are still many job openings in Eastern Iowa and in some of the fields that maybe one company is doing layoffs, another one's doing hirings. So there will be some transitions that are fairly similar. So if you're working at one warehouse, maybe you're working at a different warehouse or in a warehouse-like similar situation. There's going to be a little bit more of a buffer for those layoffs, but it's still scary, and I can understand why people are concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some of this that's going on locally, because I know I just read that Nordstrom gave a warn notice, right, for their operation here in Cedar Rapids, and I think it was like a year or two ago, Toyota Financial kind of relocated a lot of their workforce from Cedar Rapids as well. But let's talk about that transition, and I'm interested to get your take on it. We have a very large employer coming to town and
Mm.
FedEx. They're hiring for 600 roles. They're trying to
Yeah.
get those roles filled by the end of this year.
Yeah.
So in the next 3 months, what, I guess, what, let's say you're working at one of these places that, maybe you could see potential layoffs coming. Like
Mhm.
what would a transition look like, or how would you be going about getting yourself ready to maybe interview in front of a new employer?
Yeah, so you'd probably want to start to go through the process of readying yourself for understanding what are your skills. So focusing on what your strengths and your skills are, and then approaching a resume of some kind or even a job application with that in mind. So whether you fill out an application, which you're going to have to in any of these places, or you also provide a resume, you're still going to need to know the same things, like get your work history ready, the start and stop dates, get your key contacts. So if you had a manager that valued your work and you're being laid off for no fault of your own, just because of a company decision, you probably still have a good relationship with that manager. So keep their contact information. Make sure you have their private email address too, in case they get cut. You never know. So gather the information that you're going to need, and then you can kind of go through the process of looking out there and seeing what the opportunities are. So like Dan was saying, we do have a large employer that is coming here, but maybe you want to shift. Maybe you're a little gun shy for working for a large employer. Maybe you want to look for a smaller employer. There are many small employers or mid-size employers in Cedar Rapids area that may have the needs for your skills, that you might feel more safe and comfortable in applying to. So those are things that you could look for too.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. All right. What else? Anything else that you would like to
Yeah, I would
add?
say it's not all doom and gloom. So like the class of 2023 too, they still have high hopes for their career. So there is a ton of opportunity going on right now. The economy goes in cycles. We all know this. If you bought a house in the housing boom, you were paying a high interest rate, and then you refinanced when they cut the rates, and then now we're facing high interest rates. They'll go down again. It's like these cycles will pass. The economy as a whole is going to continue to grow because that's what America does, and we don't go backwards. So, and we may shrink periodically, but it's never long term. So,
Right.
I just keep that in mind. I know if you're going through a layoff, and make space for yourself to process what you're going through. We have plenty of mental health resources on Corridor Careers we can direct you to. Foundation 2 is a local resource. If you're feeling any kind of suicidal ideation, 988 is your number now. That is the new 911 for suicidal ideation. Just throw that out there. And if there are resources out there for you to reach out to. But the main thing is that you're not alone. There are more job seekers that will be joining the search this fall, through no fault of their own. So you're not alone, but the opportunities are still out there. So don't lose sight of the fact that's the truth.
Yeah, for sure. You brought up some interesting points there in regards to the cycles, and I remember I was going to add this before we wrap up this episode of Careers and Coffee, and that was, I was entering the workforce in about 2008, kind of when I was
Fun time,
finishing
right?
school. And if anybody remembers what was going on in 2008, it was a lot more dire than what I think we're going to be looking at over this next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
At that point, lots of employers were laying off like 20% of their workforce or more and asking everybody to take a pay cut, because everything had just gotten so far overblown. And we remember around that time too, that housing was an absolute mess, because of and if you sold a house in 2007, and then tried to sell that same house in 2008, I mean, it was crazy how much lower you would have gotten for that house. So I can kind of relate on a personal level to maybe what this next 6 to 12 months looks like. I can also say that is going to be a great time to, be learning new skills.
Yeah.
You can, everybody, when I've heard like Warren Buffett say something along the lines of, when everybody else is fearful, it's time to be greedy. And,
Yeah.
that's maybe more of like an investment standpoint, but I think the same can be said for your job, for your career.
Mhm.
It's time to, learn some new skills, get bullish on, what your future holds for you. And, don't play into the, you know, even if it is a rough patch, like you said, Liz, overall,
Mhm.
we're going to continue growing as an economy, and
Mhm.
things are going to be just fine 5 or 10
Yeah.
years down the road.
Yeah, 2008 was not fun. And I that was the year I got laid off, and I had a young child at the time. I had two kids, and one was a baby. And getting laid off with a baby in your hand and like figuring out what to do, it was just a nightmare. But we got through it, and we're not in that situation now. Like, this is not the same thing. This is more like it's going to be the weirdest recession, if we have one, that we've seen, because there's so many factors that weren't there back in 2008. It's a completely different kind of situation. Wages are higher now than they were then, even if you take into account like inflation.
Mhm.
And there's just more power in the job seeker's back pocket than there was then. And so, like Dan's saying, it's really important that you sharpen your skills just so that you stand out from the crowd. So some of the things from 2008 are probably still true, like making sure that you stand out. But the other part is that you still have plenty of power as a job seeker. And there's also plenty of opportunities still available.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be interesting to look back on corridor careers. Like, what was the job count on corridor careers in 2008? Like, how many how many companies were growing and actually adding work force? And you see on our job board now, we're at 600 jobs. We're going to be adding quite a few more in October, actually. So make sure you
Mhm.
check out the corridorcareers.com for all the local job listings in Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Eastern Iowa. We got you covered.
All right. Well, have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and we appreciate you.
All right. Thanks.